Alright, what's going on today, YouTube? Welcome back to your favorite cyclist YouTube channel. This week, we're talking about CO2 and how it works and how it inflates your tire. But before we get into today's video, if you're new to my channel, make sure you head down below, hit that subscribe button for me. If you already are subscribed to my channel, make sure that little bell icon next to that is checked off. That way you get notified every time I upload. Though we don't miss any of this awesome cycling content we got on this channel. So we're talking about CO2 cartridges today and how you use them on your bike. So let's start off by talking about CO2. So what is the deal with CO2 and why would I want it on my bike? First off, you know that most people use a pump to inflate their tires on your bike. Makes it very easy. However, it's very hard to carry that big old track pump back there while you're on your bike. So they made a little mini pump, right? Mini pump makes it pretty simple, pretty portable, and it's easy to inflate your tire. However, it does take a while because it's not pushing as much air, so it takes a long time for that to work. In comes our friend CO2. CO2 is very small, very portable, and inflates your tire incredibly fast and puts a lot of pressure in there with very little effort on your part. Now, let's go back to when I started riding. When I started riding, realistically, the situation with CO2 was CO2 is for roadies. You ride a pump if you're riding a mountain bike. Hence, I have a pump on my Superfly and I've run CO2 in my road bike. And that all changed once tubeless tires and wider mountain bike tires came into effect. Because of tubeless tires, you need a high volume of air very quickly in order to reseat those tires if they were to come off of the bead while you're out on the trail. Enter CO2, makes it very easy, provides a very high volume of air to pretty much pop that bead right back onto the tire without any issues at all. To do that with a hand pump, you're kind of dreaming. That's not going to happen with a hand pump, so this makes a big difference. Road bikes, you're running about 100 plus, you're generally running about 100 PSI or so. So inflating that small tire very quickly makes a big difference, especially when you're in a racing situation or you're on the side of the road even, and you just want to get back out riding and get going as fast as you can. CO2 makes a big difference. So before we start talking about CO2 cartridges, let's talk a little bit about inflators. So CO2 inflators, you got a couple different styles, of course. So you have, of course, your very simple style like this. This one is, of course, from Barfly. This is their air lever. They have it on their site. I love this thing. This is probably the coolest thing I own. This is my road bike right now. Essentially a tire lever, CO2 inflator, really cool. But this is a very simple style. Essentially with this guy, you have a threaded port right here for your CO2 to actually thread into, just like so. And then you have this side right here to screw onto your valve. And once you screw this in enough that it punctures the CO2 cartridge, it inflates your tire very quickly. Kind of neat, pretty simple design. Pretty simple design, it works good. It'll inflate your tire in a pinch. Very lightweight, very compact, works good. Your other style is going to be something more like this. This is the Genuine Innovations, the Ultraflate Plus. This is really the only thing I've ever used CO2 with is this guy right here. And how this guy works, it essentially has a compartment in the bottom. So what you do, you same thing, right in the bottom there, you have a threaded insert. So you go ahead and thread your CO2 in there. You can slide this guy back on if you want it to be more secure or protect your CO2 or keep everything all together. The big deal with this guy is it has a trigger. So once you actually puncture that CO2 cartridge, it doesn't start spraying CO2 out and start filling your tire until you pull the trigger. So with that being said, with this guy you can pull the trigger, inflate it some, let off. Pull the trigger, inflate it some, let off. Pull the trigger, inflate it some, let off. So you can kind of monitor and modulate the amount of CO2 going in. Not a bad idea. So if you heard me right, I've used one of these, but I haven't used the other one. And I've used this one here. This is what came with my bike, and this is what I'm using. This is the only thing I've ever used to put CO2 in my tires. However, I switched to this guy. And realistically, the big thing is portability and size. As you can tell, this guy is quite a bit bigger than our standard air lever here. You can tell there's quite a bit of size difference there, size width, and this guy includes a tire lever. So it's all kind of inclusive on this guy versus this. So that's kind of the big deal why I don't use this one anymore. It's because it is really big and bulky to go on my saddlebag. So that's inflators there. They of course make very, very basic inflators, which are essentially just this little top part here. Has a spot for you to screw in your CO2 and a spot for you to screw onto your valve. Very simple, very small. So if you were looking for something like that, they do make those very easy. Now let's talk about the cartridges themselves. So you have a couple different sizes of CO2. So the most common one you're going to see is a 16 gram CO2 cartridge. This is pretty much what you're going to see most common, I'd say, for road bikes and regular mountain bikes. Gonna be this guy right here. They do make a 25 gram CO2 cartridge as well. That will still work with your valves. This one I've heard works good for 29ers. It inflates the tires much higher pressure. Works good for when there needs to be more volume of air in the tire. And fat bikes, this guy would work really well. So they do make two different versions. The one you're going to see the most common can be 16 gram, and the real reason is portability. You might be able to see there is a decent size difference between those two CO2s. So most people carry around this, even though realistically there's not much weight difference between these. There's some ways, of course, a little more because the container's bigger, but there's honestly not much weight difference. It's more the size is why most people will carry the 16 gram, and realistically, most road bikes, 16 gram is going to work perfectly fine. So, what are we doing today? Today we're going to talk about how to actually inflate your tire with a CO2 cartridge. And we're going to use the good old Barfly air lever. I want to try this guy out, and I've never had the opportunity to. And we're going to do it today, and we're going to inflate the road bike tire and make sure it actually works. That way you guys get to experience this, see how a CO2 cartridge works before you actually get stuck on the road and end up getting stuck with one. So let's move over to the bike and we'll deflate one of these tires so we can fill it right back up with CO2. Alright, set the tire. The first thing I'm going to do, let all of our air out of the tire. Alright, now that all the air is out of our tire, what we're going to do, we're going to get our CO2 inflator here, and we're going to go ahead and screw the part here onto our valve. Just got our guy screwed on there, ready to go, and we get our CO2 cartridge. So what you're going to do with CO2 cartridge, you're going to hold on here. You want to keep your hands away from this area. When CO2 releases, it is very cold. You don't want to freeze your fingers off. Generally, you'd have cycling gloves on, which helps. So keep your hands away from that area. Also, this container is going to get pretty cold as well. What we're going to do, we're going to screw it into the threaded hole right there. And what's going to end up happening is it's going to, once we tighten it a little bit more, it's right at that point where it's going to puncture. We're going to puncture it, and you'll see, you might hear a little bit, you might hear some hissing as it inflates, and our tire will inflate pretty quickly. So pay attention, it's going to be pretty quick. Let's give this a shot. It's been a long time since I've used CO2. So there we go, and as you can see, that is very cold. It iced over, but that is just about where we want it. I don't know if you can see it like hazing off. Yeah, this is ice now. It's kind of crazy. It's been a while since I've seen one. Yeah, it's iced over right now, so this is very cold. Just so you know, very cold. You don't really want to touch it. You don't want to hold on to that without gloves on. You just want to leave it where it is. But that is essentially our tire. Then you just undo it just like with a normal pump. Tighten our valve back down, and she is set to go. Pretty simple, pretty cool. Get you back on the road very quickly. As you saw it, inflate it very quickly. If I had just unscrewed that and let it go, it would have been done probably like 10, 15 seconds. So very quick and very quick inflation. But that's how you go ahead and use a CO2 cartridge to inflate your tire on your bike. So that's how you go ahead and use a CO2 cartridge and a CO2 inflator to inflate your tire and get you back on the road. As you can see, it's a very simple, very easy process. You just gotta be careful with a couple things. Biggest one is this gets really cold, so you wanna be careful with that. You don't freeze anything off while you're working with it. So cycling gloves, keep them on. That way you at least have, if you have a fingerless ones, you have your palm to work with. If you have fingers to, screw this on and off with. So there's something to keep in mind when you're working with CO2 cartridge. Is it possible to blow a tire off a rim? I don't know, never done it before, but I'm sure it's possible. But I do want to give a big thanks to Leland Gas Technologies. They actually reached out to me and wanted to work with me on some CO2 stuff and sent me out a bunch of CO2 cartridges so I can share some cool CO2 knowledge with you guys. And this is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, but just show you how to even inflate a tire with CO2. It's something a lot of cyclists don't know. I was glad to be able to show it to you. I have some other cool ideas planned with some CO2 cartridges working with bikes, so let me know if you guys have anything you want to see. I'd be glad to do it. I'm glad to see what works, so I try different things out. If you have any great ideas, let me know in the comments section down below. I'm looking forward to doing some cool stuff with CO2. Never worked too much with it, but I'm excited to try it out. So if you are interested in checking out Leland Gas Technologies, I will have a link in the description down below. Big thanks again to them for supplying the CO2 cartridges so you can try out some cool stuff with bikes with them. But if you did enjoy the video, give it a big thumbs up. Appreciate the support. Any comments or questions, let me know down in the comment section below. Love chatting with you guys. Love answering any questions you guys have. And we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching today.